Good evening. Thank you, everyone on the Transportation Advisory Board and the Parks Board for giving up your Wednesday evening to talk about the Newport Way Maple to Sunset project and the Green Necklace. I'm John Mortensen, the Transportation Engineering Manager with the City of Issaquah. For tonight, we're going to start off by introducing the people who are on the city staff at the meeting, so that way those of you who aren't on the different boards can know who we are, and also the consultant that's our design team. I'll start off by having Isabel introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Isabel Diaz. I'm a senior transportation engineer with the city.
Go to Jennifer.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Fink, Park Planner and Project Administrator in the Parks Department.
And Stephen.
Hi, everyone. Stephen Padua, Senior Transportation Planner.
Okay. Brianne.
Hi, everyone. Brianne Ross. I am with Petite. We're the design firm that the city has hired to design Newport Way, and I'm the project manager.
And Gina.
Hi, everybody. I'm Gina Parento, and I'm also with Petite, working with Brianne. And on the project, I'm the principal in charge that works on the design of the Newport Way project.
Okay. And for the roll call for attendance, I'm going to have Brianne share her screen and go through the list. And what I would like for everyone, when it gets to your turn, to say your name. I believe the list is in order. I think it's Parks Board first, then Transportation Advisory. Oh no, it's the Transportation Advisory Board first. But as we go through, say your name, and that way everyone can put a name to the face, and we'll put a check on the participant list.
Hi, everyone. My name is Sujata Goyal, and I'm with the Transportation Advisory Board.
Hi, my name is Micah Zeitz-Chua. I'm also with the Transportation Advisory Board.
I am Christy Triple with the Transportation Advisory Board.
I'm not sure if Dave's here, but I'm Joseph Zung, and I'm on the Transportation Advisory Board.
I'm Cynthia Kraft.
I was just going to say, I don't see Dave on the list of participants, just as a note, so.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Cross. I'm with the Transportation Advisory Board.
Not sure if Janie's here, so I'm Erica Boyd, and I'm on the Transportation Advisory Board.
Hi, I'm Tom McDonald, and on the Transportation Advisory Board.
Good evening. I'm Jerry Bernstein, and I'm an alternate on the Transportation Advisory Board.
Hi, my name is Julian. I'm with the Transportation Advisory Board.
Hello, I'm Brad Book. I'm with the Parks Board.
I'm Jonathan Richardson, Parks Board.
Hi, I'm Linda Whitworth with the Parks Board.
I'm Ruben Nieto. I'm with the Park Board.
Actually, I think Ruben is above Jonathan there. There you go. Zach, you're here.
Yes, I'm Zach.
Zach spoke up, but he was really quiet, I think.
Yeah. Right.
Zach.
I don't see Marlene or Jeremy on the list of participants, I don't think.
Yeah, I do see Brenda.
Yeah.
Hi, yes, I'm here. I didn't have it myself unmuted. I am here. Brenda Spears, alternate with the Parks Board.
And I would also like to add, Parks Board has an additional member, our Issaquah Youth Advisory Board member, Ryan Ramey, has also joined us.
Well, thanks again for attending, everyone. The next part of the meeting is public comments. Are there any members of the public here tonight who wish to make comments? Seeing none, we will go ahead and begin the presentation. Quick question, is everyone seeing the presentation slide and not the notes page?
Yes.
Wonderful. I always fear that I'm going to give the wrong one. Tonight, we're here to talk about Newport Way between Maple and Sunset, and also talk about the City of Issaquah's green necklace that the Parks and Recreation Department put together. The purpose of tonight's meeting is to discuss Newport Way, Maple to Sunset, the project concept, considering the Mobility Master Plan and the Green Necklace to inform a joint letter that will be endorsed by both boards stating their preferred concept. Ideally, both boards would reach a consensus and endorse one alternative. It's really important tonight to make sure that everyone is heard, and it is okay if the Parks Board endorses a different concept than the Transportation Advisory Board, and that the letter would state which board endorsed which option concept and why. And that's what we really want to get out of everyone tonight, is the reasons why people have their priorities. And like I said, ideally it'll be the same alternative or same concept, but it's not the end of the world if there's not an agreement. Background on this project, this is a project that the city's been working on for quite a long time, off and on. And the City Council adopted a concept for the project in January 2011. The project limits are Maple on the north end and Sunset on the southern end. And so basically it goes from Target to Sunset Way. It is one of 3 north-south major corridors in the city of Issaquah. It is the one that is best suited for additional non-motorized transportation, because the other 2 main north-south corridors are Front Street, which is confined with lots of businesses on each side, and SR 900 or 17th, which functions more like a state highway. The concept from 2011 that's been carried forward includes 2 southbound lanes that go from Maple to 900 feet south of Holly, and roundabouts at the intersections of Juniper, Holly, and Dogwood. In addition to the corridor project that the Public Works Department has been working on, the Parks Department, as part of the strategic plan and then the planning for the Green Necklace, identified Newport Way and Holly for the Mountains to Sound Greenway corridor. And so as we're working on this project, we really want to try and incorporate the vision that the Parks Department has for the Mountains to Sound Greenway corridor and the Green Necklace, along with the vision that this project has, the guiding principles from the mobility master plan. And this project is also 1/3 located within Central Issaquah and the Central Issaquah circulation standards. Continuing the background, there are a couple features that cannot be eliminated that we as the project team looked at and said that we can't. And the first one are the features that are related to the transportation concurrency. The transportation concurrency is how the city has decided to prepare the transportation system for future growth. And the city has a level of service that's calculated at intersections. And in order to meet those requirements in the future, we need to make the roundabout improvements at the 3 intersections, Juniper, Holly, and Dogwood. And we need to add the second southbound lane from Maple through Holly. And so those are features that when we were looking at ways to reduce costs for this project, that we were not able to, they were not on the table to be reduced. The other one that we cannot eliminate is the planter strip. I'm going to go into a little bit more detail on that one. The central is because the project is located within Central Issaquah, or at least between Maple and Holly. It follows under the design standards of the Central Issaquah circulation standards. And there are two things in the Central Issaquah circulation standards that require the planter strip. And those are in the circulation standards, there's a section for the priorities. And in the priorities, it ranks as you're making decisions on what to build and not build for a project. You go through the priority, and we worked with the community planning and development team as we went through and narrowed up our footprint. But the second highest priority in the Central Issaquah standards are the elements that contribute to a pedestrian-friendly environment, like retaining planting strips. And so it's already the second highest priority that we can't get rid of because it creates a friendly environment for the pedestrians by having that planter strip to separate them from the cars. When you get down a little further in the Central Issaquah standards for the priorities, it allows a design team to narrow the planter strip, and it can be narrowed to 4 feet from face of curb to the edge of the pedestrian facility, or from the back of curb to the pedestrian facility, 3.5 feet for landscaping. The design team did evaluate whether we wanted to do that or not, and decided not to consider narrowing the planter strip to the minimum. And the reasons for that are two. The first one is that this is a corridor with metro buses, and in Central Issaquah, the streetlights are limited to 15 feet tall, which means the streetlights need to be placed in the planter strip, and having that narrow of a planter strip felt like that was too close to the bus's mirrors. And the second one is whenever you have a planter strip that is that narrow and you're wanting to put trees in it, the trees cause the sidewalk joints to have vertical lips. And we don't want that for two reasons. And the first one is from a liability point of view. If you have vertical lips like that, if someone's walking or running along the sidewalk or the shared use path, that they could trip on it. And that's not safe because the city could get sued for that. The other one is this corridor is a corridor that we want to be for all ages and abilities. And when we start having those vertical lips in the concrete, it makes it dangerous, or it makes it impassable for pedestrians with mobility disabilities, that it's a barrier. And we want to make sure that we have this as a corridor that people with disabilities can use. At the previous TAB and Parks Board meeting, I talked about the different values that went into the project that came from the Central Issaquah circulation standards, the intent, the guiding principles from the mobility master plan, and the values from the park strategic plan and the Green Necklace planning document. And out of those, we came up with, there's several common values. The first one's safety. And for this one, we're really thinking of how the bicycles and pedestrians interact. And we're not considering the crossings yet, that's something that is, when it comes to safety, probably the most important thing, but we're going to engineer and design those very specifically to standards. And right now we're just talking about concepts, and regardless, when we get to the crossings, that those will be engineered. The next common value is connections, and it's really important, and this came across in all documents, but really strongly in the park strategic plan and the green necklace, is to have intuitive connections to the city, region, major parks, schools, commercial and retail centers, and the new neighborhoods that are going to be built in the central Issaquah area. The third common value is non-motorized transportation. And for that one, all of these concepts that we are considering really prioritize non-motorized transportation. There's not really a whole lot of difference between them. The fourth value is all ages and abilities, and that includes young people, old people, people aged in between the young and old, people with disabilities, people without disabilities, everyone you can think of who would be using the corridor as a pedestrian or a bicyclist. The next common value is character and experience. For character and experience, we're really thinking of the feeling that the user experiences as walking or bicycling along the corridor. Is it comfortable and pleasant to use? The next common goal or common value that all the different planning documents have is environmentally sustainable. And because these concepts all have the same footprint, this is one that really, it's the same for all of them. And then the final common value is to prepare for growth. And Issaquah is going to be more densely populated. It's going to have a light rail station in the future. Technology changes. We're already seeing a lot more e-bikes. There's electrical scooters, and there's going to be changes both in Issaquah in terms of the population and the density from the growth, and the changes in ways to have non-motorized transportation. At this part of the meeting, we're going to do an interactive poll, and it's, if you can, either on your computer or smartphone, go to the website menti.com. And when you go there, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen. That way, Brianne, who's going to be doing the poll, can do it. We're going to do, at this point, we're going to do two polls. The first one is going to be just a fun one to make sure everyone is working and understands how to use the Menti. And that question is, if you go to the website menti.com and enter the code 81633869, and what we want to know is, what is your favorite Issaquah Alp? And the choices are Tiger Mountain, Cougar Mountain, and Squawk Mountain. Is anyone having trouble getting to the poll?
I think you were muted, Ruben.
Mute.
There you go.
Oh, okay. I need to hear the instructions again, how to get there.
Go to the website menti.com, menti.com, and use the code 81633869.
And I think it's, for me, it's showing in the presentation, the screen, it's up on the left side too.
Okay, Mentimeter, okay. Mentimeter.
Are the results live from the voting?
No, so that's one thing I did want to mention.
I still can't find it.
It just brings them up in this order. So you'll see when I put in the results after I think I've got everyone. You'll see what that looks like. So for the next one, just keep that in mind that this is just the order that I entered them.
81633869.
We usually call it Tiger Mountain, Tigger Mountain when the kids are young.
And I think we had
Not getting anything.
so I think we had 16 people.
Yeah, I can't get in it.
All right, Ruben. Here, you know what
forget
I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this link and put it in the chat, and then maybe that might help. I think I can.
So Ruben, if you clicked on the link, did it take you directly to the voting?
The link being up here in the right corner?
No, on your bottom right, click the little circle that says chat on your screen of our presentation right now.
Boy, I can't see anything. I can't see where chat is.
I think the chat has been disabled for this meeting.
Somehow I don't see it.
No, it's the chat's on there. Your screen might be below the bottom then. If you
Well, I can't. Yeah, I can't seem to move the picture up or down. So my whole bottom screen thing is missing here. So I'll have to just listen.
Yeah, I've got problems too because my computer's not updated. It's asking me to download Edge or Chrome, and I don't have either one of them in my system, and I don't want to go through all that right now.
Can people do this on their phones, Brianne?
Yes.
Ruben and Brad, would you be able to do that with the phones that you have?
Well, that's what I did, but when I hit vote, nothing happens.
I don't have a smartphone, so that's not going to work.
Okay. So I've got 15. So maybe I've got everyone except for Brad then. I think Ruben, maybe we did get you.
Did you? I didn't get the votes. I don't know.
So here.
Every time I hit vote, nothing happens.
Oh, well, show your results.
3 votes, and did you hit the vote at the bottom? There you go.
There you go.
Okay.
So I got 15 people. This shows that we've got 15 votes.
Oh, Tigger won.
And Tiger won. Okay.
Okay. Well, glad we got that out of the way since there's a few glitches. That's why we put in the fun poll, although I think Jennifer pointed out that we left off Grand Ridge, but I still think Tiger would have won. It was a good choice by everyone.
Keep the hikers over there and keep Tigger, Cougar and Squawk less populated for hiking.
Now, the next poll that we're going to do is we're going to have people rank the top of the common values. And I wanted to see, since I think everyone got it figured out but Brad.
I have an idea. If Brad's isn't working, he could message me his vote and I could vote on his behalf since since we're not voting. Would that be a short, quick way to do it?
That's what I was thinking would be
And are you okay with that, Brad?
You may have to promote Brad to a panelist.
You're muted, Brad.
You may have to promote Brad to a panelist in order for him to access the chat to do that.
Oh,
I've already got the chat up, so I just put
Okay.
direct to you, Gina, right?
yep. You just pick me and then you can send me your vote and I'll get on the Mentimeter for you.
Okay, I can do that.
Great.
Okay, and before we start the polling for this one, two of the common values, because they were the same for everyone, that is the environmentally sustainable and the non-motorized transportation, those are not going to be in the poll. And the reason why is we wanted to really focus on the differences between the three concepts. And Brianne, when you're ready, you can share the poll.
Oops. Need another minute, just a second.
Yep.
John, can you say one more time which ones we're not ranking on?
We are not ranking on the non-motorized transportation and the environmentally sustainable.
Thank you. Oh,
Oh, that's okay.
sorry.
Brad, if you want to type the order of preference for yours to me and let me know when you've sent it so I can make sure I see it. I didn't miss it.
Okay, I don't know if anyone else is having this, but for some reason on this, do we have to re-log into Menti? Because I have a pre-discussion concept slide there.
If you submit your,
Oh, just submit. Okay.
and then it should go to the next one and says rank
Okay.
your values.
Yes. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I'm kind of following to test it out too.
So should we be on the next one, talking about connection, safety, character, or that's one we just voted on? Okay.
You should only be voting on ranking the values. Looks like we're looking for a couple more.
I still can't read it.
2 more.
Okay, I've got Brad's. I just need to get them entered on my part here too. So okay, I submitted Brad's.
There you go.
I think we're looking for one more.
It's
Anyone
me.
else?
I still can't figure this out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Every time I hit vote, it asks me to sign up for something.
If you directly message me, I'll vote for you. How's that?
Well, I can't even find how to get a message because the whole bottom, this slide is taking up my whole screen. I can't see anything.
One idea.
I try to minimize it. It won't get any smaller.
Ruben, if you feel comfortable, and if you don't, that's fine, but you could just say it out loud and then Brianne could vote for you.
Connections.
Okay. So your connections is the
Yes.
first choice. Second choice.
Number 2.
I'm sorry, what's your second choice? For the next one?
Oh, it's okay.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm understanding. Rank. I thought we were just picking one.
Oh, nope. We're gonna put them in order.
Oh, okay. Then number 2. Okay, it'd be 2, 1, 5, 4, 3.
2, 1. 2, 1.
5,
4.
4, 3.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. I'm going to jot these down, which will help as we talk about the alternatives. Safety, connections, character and experience, and all ages and abilities, and prepare for growth. Okay. And we'll go back to the presentation. Is everyone seeing my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. This is concept A. And for concept A, what we did for the non-motorized facilities is instead of having one side be the shared use path, like what you may have traditionally seen, the path is really split on both sides of the road with 6 feet for pedestrians in a more typical sidewalk setting. And then on the inside, a 6-foot wide protected bike lane. And so we'd have the 12 feet of space for the non-motorized users on each side, but the users would be separated. So that way the pedestrians are not mixing with the bicycles and vice versa. From a safety point of view, this really focuses on the separation between the bicyclists and the pedestrians. Compared to the other two alternatives, B and C, typically less incidences between pedestrians and bicyclists because they have their own space. It may give the perception that this is a commuter lane and experienced riders may be less cautious of recreational riders. The 6 feet bicycle space does allow for passing of bikes. The pedestrians will feel safer because the bicycle traffic is defined and more predictable. And when we get to driveways, it might be easier for drivers knowing that for the bicycles who travel at much higher speeds than the pedestrians, that they're going to be coming from one direction instead of both directions. And then the final one with safety is the some of the national guidance for these type of non-motorized facilities. A lot of times we go to NACTO, does recommend to separate bicycles and pedestrians on a street with, like Newport Way, with the volume and the speed limit. For this concept, when we look at some of the differences between it and the other two alternatives, when it comes to connections, which because it's may not be perceived as a trail, the design would need to really take into account that and do the wayfinding, so that way as people are passing through the Mountains to Sound Greenway Trail, that they would be able to follow the wayfinding and to know which way the path goes. And it does not suggest a recreational trail, but more of a commuter facility. Separates the direction of bike traffic. And then the next one is character and experience. And feeling a user as they're walking or biking on the corridor is really what we're looking at here. And it may be more comfortable for some users, as there are separate facilities for, there's a separation between the bikes and the pedestrians, but that really depends on the person or the user. And I would say for this alternative, I'm not going to go into as much for all ages and abilities, but because there is room for passing, that we do feel that it is a facility that meets the needs of all ages and abilities. This is concept B, and for concept B, what we decided is on the Squawk Mountain side of Newport Way would be a 12-foot wide shared use path. And that would be dedicated as the Mountains to Sound Greenway Trail in the section that goes between Maple and Holly. The path would continue all the way to Sunset. And for this one, it has the same footprint, that it would have a 12-foot wide sidewalk on the other side. And the reason why that was kept the same is because there's an elementary school, so there's still going to be a lot of people walking and riding their bikes to school, and we did want to provide that extra additional facility. For the safety, the differences between this one and concept A is commuters might be might be more likely to ride in the street just because it has more of a recreational feel. And I think it would depend on how many people are out and using it. But some commuters may ride in the street, and commuters would have to be more cautious in areas with high congestion as the city becomes more dense and has more non-motorized users.
Question, John?
Yes.
On this one with the 12-foot with the bikes on the right side, would that continue eventually all the way down to Sunset? And so that the cycle track would be all the way on that one side of Sunset, and then they'd have to go back to the other sides of the road from there?
Let me make sure I understood. The 12-foot path, are you asking if it would go from Maple to Sunset? Or continue past Sunset?
Right, I was asking if it would, this would go all the way up to Sunset, and then at Sunset, they would go back to bikes on either side of the road?
Correct. Yeah, there's no changes to Sunset at this time.
Okay.
That's not to say that there won't be.
Past Sunset, yes, okay.
Right. Yep. Okay. For the connections, The difference is that on this one, by having it on this side of this, it'd be more of a traditional shared use path, and it would match what's currently being designed and built for Newport Way between SR 900 and 54th. For the character and experience value, the difference between this one and concept A is that it may be more comfortable for more users as they may feel like it's more of the traditional shared use path. And like I said, these things all vary from user to user. And so when we get to the discussion, that's, I think, where a lot of the great input from you guys can be. And for concept C, on this one, what we did is the shared use path is on the Issaquah Valley Elementary School side. But instead of doing a 12-foot wide shared use path, we went with a 14-foot wide path. And to give it extra width for even more non-motorized space. The sidewalk on the Squawk Mountain side was reduced to 8 feet, and we have even a bigger buffer of 7.5 feet between the path and the street. And this would be, when it comes to safety, a lot of the same things as concept B, and that some commuters may decide to cycle in the road as opposed to on a shared use path. And the wider trail does give for additional room for the additional volume of school children using the facility. And for connections, it's pretty similar to concept B, that it gives the traditional shared use path experience, and that as someone were looking at it as they're trying to follow through Issaquah and the Mountains to Sound Greenway Trail, it would look and feel very much like the traditional shared use path, whether it's the Mountains to Sound Greenway Trail or the Burke-Gilman Trail or the trail between Redmond and Issaquah. And at this point, I'm going to stop sharing my screen because in order to kick off the conversation, we're going to do a preliminary poll where the question we're going to ask is, which concept best meets the highest priority common values? And so when we looked at the common values, safety came up to the top, connections was the second highest, character and experience was the third, and then all ages and abilities and prepare for growth came in at fourth and fifth. So really focusing mostly on, I'd say, the top three: safety, connections, and character and experience. And think about which of the three best meets those values. And I'm going to hand it off to Brienne, who's going to do the poll. And then for those of you who, I think what we'll do on this one is, Brad, if you can tell Gina in the chat, and then Ruben at the end, if you feel comfortable just sharing it, then we can get your vote in too. I want to make sure we get everyone to vote. And so go to menti.com, and it's the code 81633869.
And it should just already, like on mine, it's already popped up on the same screen I had open. Yep.
Okay, no.
So I see a question in the chat. What was the second common value? Connections from the votes. The second one was connections. And I see your vote. Thank you, Brad.
Okay. So that's 16. Ruben, were you able to vote? No? You're muted, Ruben. Sorry. Did I get in? Thought we only had 16 folks.
I was asking me for a password. I would say concept A meets the value of safety.
Okay, I'll add that in. Means we're getting 7 voters, by the way, John. Or I mean 17.
Okay. Oh, good. So the preliminary, and this is really to help focus the discussion, and because what we're going to do at the next part of this meeting is to go into breakout rooms to have the discussions. And one of the reasons for that is we really want to make sure that everyone is heard and has a chance to talk. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have 4 breakout rooms, and in the 4 breakout rooms, I guess, Brianne, is that right? We've got 4? Yeah, and inside the 4 breakout rooms, each one is going to have either a chair or a vice chair from each of the advisory boards, and they will be summarizing the comments, and then we'll have staff there to facilitate the conversation and to talk about the different how these concepts are with the values. Based on the preliminary vote, I think we should focus more on concepts A and B, but if someone really feels strongly about C, please speak up. And with that, are we ready for breakout rooms, Isabel? Okay, welcome back. At this next stage in the meeting, what we are going to do is have the 2 chairs and the 2 vice chairs summarize the conversations in their groups. And I will go ahead and choose on Brad to go first.
Hey, John, let's do it. So we were a bit mixed. I don't know that we really found any consensus in it. I don't know that that was really intent anyway, but we had a lot of discussion and really some further clarification, because I wasn't, nor was Thomas and maybe some others, real clear that the path was actually a shared use path, because the graphic looks as if it was just bikes on one side and peds on the other, which to some extent I felt to be the safest, which is why I selected alternative B as the best. Once you actually start seeing that that's a shared use path, that kind of changes things a little bit. Essentially, I think some of the elements that we talked about really focused more on anything was safety, and that there's a distinctional difference between safety for interaction with vehicles and safety and interaction with pedestrians. And so to some extent, each one of these options treats those a little bit differently in the sense that alternative A may have some safety features in terms of interaction with vehicles, because you have bikes going one way, which people on the road can predict what better in that respect. But you also have them interacting with pedestrians 6 foot apart on each pedestrian lane and a bike lane. So anyway, I think a couple things that we wanted to see a little bit further is in terms of how these trails and paths would flow through the roundabouts, and it would be good to get a better idea of that. It would be, Julian had mentioned, one of the big focuses that we want to talk about is the utility feature for transportation purposes in terms of bikes. We really want to focus on what is a good strategy for bikes in flowing through Newport Way. So I don't know. To some extent, I kind of think that there's potential that people might have actually selected alternatives differently after discussion. And, so I don't know whether that would change or not, but, I think some things became clearer through discussion in terms of what the graphics represented and what this overall proposal was looking like. For instance, concept C, from my perspective, was not high on the list, but when you start adding a shared use path, having that wider path to 14 feet might make that a little safer in terms of interaction between bikes and pedestrians. There was discussion in terms of at least having, different surfaces, being the thing that may actually keep people safer, I suppose, where bikes are going to stay more on a traditional paved path versus pedestrians might stick more to sidewalks. I just don't know, the reality of that, I think is going to be more a matter of space. What space is available? If you got bikes coming down, they're going to go probably off that path and onto the sidewalk if that's appropriate to do. So I think that's kind of a bit of a summation.
Okay, great. I'll have Sujata go next for her group.
Thanks, John. So in our group, we had Ryan and Christy and myself, and the three of us were actually of like mind, and all three of us felt that alternative A spoke closest to the values that we discussed in the priority order that we discussed them. So really, we were all very safety focused. And one of the big things, Ryan mentioned was that the separation of walking and biking, that separation, it was nice to have that separation on both sides of the road, even though later it was clarified that, people could walk or bike on both sides of the road in the other designs. But we liked the idea that people could bike or walk on both sides of the road and remain as separate modes. That was something that we felt was much safer, especially as Christy mentioned, that this is one, a high volume arterial, but two, that it's also a lot of school kids would be using this shared use facility. And so it was nice to be able to have that separation for the kids as well, between the bikes and the pedestrians. One of the other things that Ryan mentioned was that it's a good way to, the separation between bike and ped also meant that we had a better opportunity to prep for growth. Because as e-bikes or scooters or all of those kind of different alternative wheels start coming, into the market, it'll be nice to, again, keep them separated from the pedestrians in sort of their own space. And, one of the things I mentioned is I know we have a lot of shared use path trails all over the region, and people are used to bikes and peds sharing these trails, sharing the space. But one of the biggest differences that we felt for this particular corridor is that it's in a road right of way versus, some of our trails, which are, either railroads or parks. This is inside of a road right of way. And so maybe cyclists would feel that that 15-mile speed limit is maybe a softer suggestion, and that they can, speed up a little bit more because it is a road right of way. So again, with the eye to safety, we wanted to keep it separate. And then it was nice that Jennifer was on the call for a bit, because she was able to clarify that this design alternative A could also, does also sort of meet the values of the Emerald Necklace. So, it meets the values of sort of transportation infrastructure, but it also does, with the tree lined streets, it can meet the values of the Emerald Necklace. So it's kind of that shared value between the two groups. So that's kind of our summary. Thank you.
Thank you, Sujata. I'll have Zach go next.
Okay. Our group was kind of split between concept A and B, essentially in favor of the concept B was basically that the cyclist and the pedestrians would be split on either side of the road, which would sort of eliminate that issue of cyclists going too quickly past pedestrians. Also, I believe that with the cyclists being on the squawk side, pedestrians being on the school side, then that would allow some separation between the kids and the cyclists. And in terms of concept A, I've liked the fact that there was the cyclists and the pedestrians were able to share the same sides of the streets without having conflict between the two there. So definitely the discussion was very safety focused with regards to separating pedestrians from cyclists. On both sides kind of thinking similarly, just for different reasons as to why one would be safer than the other. I think since both of them being shared use, the concern was that on the cyclist side, it would also have some pedestrian use. So being able to delineate between the two would be useful, having them on both sides. Also spoke a little bit about cost. The cost for each being the same with the same footprint of that 68 feet. There was some concern about the direction of riding and safety with the motorist as well. I don't believe we found any glaring issues of it not meeting the needs with regards to the Mountains to Sound Greenway or the transportation needs. And I believe that kind of summarizes what we spoke of.
Thanks, Zach. And next I'll have Cynthia talk about what your group talked about.
Okay, let's see. Well, I thought it was interesting that we went into the breakout sessions where 3 people had voted for A as number 1, and then 2 people had voted otherwise. I forget which was which. And then throughout the discussion, it softened to 1 person feeling strongly about A, and the others being kind of more tied or softened on their position. We didn't actually re-vote, but nobody came over to A. And I also think that everybody it was implicit. We weren't explicit about it, safety being first, but I think the main differences were just in interpretation of what is the safest. And so we were, and I'm still honestly listening to these summaries, still a little confused with B and C. And I think it was our assumption that there was a predominant direction for a predominant side of the road for pedestrians and cyclists being separate, which means that in both B and C, and that cyclists will be going opposite directions on one side of the street. So and then I kind of at the beginning of this heard you say, no, that's not really true, that both sides are a shared use path. So I'm still a little confused about what the design is there.
Sure.
So
yeah, let me go ahead and share my screen, and I want to talk about B to clarify it a little bit. Okay, this is concept B, and what it is on this.
We can't see it yet,
yeah,
John.
I'm not seeing your screen, but a lot of us have it up on a different screen.
Oops, hold on. I needed to hit. There we go. Okay.
There we go.
Did you make it bigger, John?
Is it bigger now?
Yep. Great, thanks.
Okay, perfect. All right. So on the Squawk Mountain side, this is a shared use path, which means that both pedestrians and cyclists could use this facility. And on this side, it is technically a 12-foot wide sidewalk. In a lot of ways, it's a second shared use path. The Difference is this one we intend to make out of asphalt pavement, which is if you are a lot of users who are runners or bicyclists prefer the asphalt pavement to the concrete sidewalk. The just a little bit easier when you're running, and then especially if you're biking, you don't have the joints, because if you have a sidewalk, you've got the joints that you feel on your tires as you're riding it. And so this sidewalk or the concrete shared use path that would be on the school side, kind of the thinking on this is, so bikes would be perfectly allowed on both. There's nothing inside city code that prohibits bikes from riding on the sidewalk. And hoping that with the concrete side being the side with the school, that side would have more of the walkers and the slower bicyclists. So if you're riding your bike to school, you're going to be riding on the side of the street with the schools, especially because there's a lot more housing on the school side than there is on the mountain side. But
Hey, John,
yes, Gina.
would the right side that is the asphalt, would that also be signed as the trail connection?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
so one of the key things to the Mountains to Sound Greenway corridor that we've found from talking to them is they really want to make sure that the signing and the logos are there so that way people can follow it along. So the mountainside would be signed for the Mountains to Sound Greenway Trail, and the concrete side would not. Did that help answer any questions on concept B?
So, yeah, is it fair to say that rather than being prohibited, they would be encouraged through design to use one
Yes.
side for both directions? Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So with that being said, I think I can probably finish summarizing our group. So there was concern that that even though the separation would be on the pavement with, visually separated, that I think kind of the bottom line was there people were fearing that there wasn't enough room and people wouldn't adhere to it. So you'd have bicyclists mixing with pedestrians and maybe that not being expected, I guess. So there was concern about that. And then
For option A, right?
for option A, I'm sorry, yes. So the folks that were not in favor of option A were concerned that it didn't give either enough room and they wouldn't be adhered to. You couldn't trust the cyclists to stay in the 6 feet. There was also a concern. It would be favorable to move everyone over to the school side of the road for the reason you just said. Fewer driveways, so that might be useful to have cyclists encouraged to be over there because there'd be less interface with traffic. And I'm trying to be a good report out person and not, but my own strong opinion, which wasn't necessarily shared, was just anytime you mix them, it's more dangerous. And so concept A separates them. And then if you're trying to encourage people to cycle on both sides of the road, cycle on one side of the road in both directions with a 0.7 mile stretch. If you're going 15 miles an hour, you're going to do that in about 3 minutes. And so you're not going to go across the road when you're traveling the opposite direction, that would be with traffic. You're not going to cross the road and 3 minutes later cross the road again. So if you're being encouraged to use one side for both directions, you're probably not going to do that because you're not going to switch sides for 0.7 miles. And there's lots and lots of, as Sujata mentioned, being kind of a commuter route and within the right of way. It's you have lots and lots of people cycling through there at 17 to 22 miles an hour, and so they're not going to want to jump over to the opposite side. And I also was worried that I would be a little biased, and so I asked Jonathan to just maybe say anything that I might have missed, since I was the only one that felt as strongly as I did. I was the one to ask to report out. I didn't want to abuse that power. So Jonathan, do you want to share anything else that I might have missed?
Yeah, no, I think that encapsulated. I think the only clarification I would have is just for concept B when we were discussing, that would be on the southwest side. So the thinking there being that because there is less kind of in and out traffic because there are fewer businesses and residences located on that side of the road, that it may provide some safety benefit, and that there's less opportunity for cyclists crossing in front of intersections where cars are coming in and out, as opposed to the other side where you have Holly Street, you have people going the back way to Target, the school is right there.
Okay, great. What I think we should do next is I want to do a deep dive onto concept A, just like what we did, and then do a quick recap of each of the three concepts, and then do the poll again and see where everyone's at as a group. And so I'm going to go ahead and start.
John, did we miss hearing from one group? Or did we hear from everyone?
I think we heard from everyone.
Okay, sorry.
Is everyone seeing my screen? All right, this is concept A, where this is the school side. Over here is the Squawk Mountain side. There is a 6-foot wide sidewalk, which is what we have for most of the sidewalks. A few areas where it's a little bit wider, but it's a pretty standard width for our sidewalk. Then we have a 6-foot wide bike facility. Just for reference, when you see the on-street painted bike lanes, usually those are 5 feet. So this is a little bit wider, which we're talking about the additional room for passing, and it's just really symmetrical between both sides. On concept B, we already talked in depth, but I'll just refresh it just to hit it one more time. Asphalt pavement on the Squawk Mountain side, concrete on the other side, sign the asphalt side for the Mountains to Sound Greenway Trail. And concept C is on the school side, have an extra wide 14-foot wide path, and on the Squawk Mountain side, an 8-foot sidewalk. And I'm going to stop. Does anyone need to see them one more time before we do another poll? Or anyone from the team want to add something I missed?
Hey, John, on concept C, the 14-foot path, that would be Mountain to Sound Greenway?
Correct.
Okay.
I thought that was school side.
Well, on concept C, it would be both the school and the Mountains to Sound Greenway Trail.
Oh, so you'd put the bikers doing the trail and the children all together.
Correct. And Brianne, are you able to get up another poll?
Sure can, yes.
And Brad, I'll watch for your vote.
People are beating me to it. Okay.
Similar instructions, go to the website Menti, and the code is 81633869.
Brad, I got your vote. Thank you.
And Zach asked a question, can the code be added again?
Like the link that I copied last time?
Oh, no, sorry. I was just using a different device. My
Oh.
question was answered already. The code was provided again. Thank you.
Okay.
Brianne, this is Jennifer. We may be short one vote. I think Linda dropped off.
And then
Ruben.
Ruben, does Ruben want to give his vote?
I still stay with B.
Okay, I'll put you in. So then, Jennifer, you said someone dropped off. So then I think we've got everybody. Big reveal.
Okay, the 50% voted for concept A, 38% for concept B, and 13% for concept C. And with that, Brianne, can you stop sharing your screen? Perfect, thanks. What I'd like to do is ask because concept C came in fairly low, the people who voted for concept C, between concepts A and B, do you have a preference?
Or I can also,
Oh,
we
how
can
about
do
that?
it one more time if you want.
Sure, let's do another poll, and that way, especially since we're getting near the end of our meeting, let's just look at concepts A and B and see where the voting is.
Oh, I just did that.
And Brianne, when you have it, yeah, share your screen, perfect.
And then Ruben, if you want, I'm happy to vote for you again.
Yeah, still B.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you, Brad.
I think we're waiting on one more. Okay.
Okay. With that, right now, it is concept A was 50%, 58 or 56%, and concept B is at 44%.
Almost a tie.
I guess trying to probe a little bit more from people. Between the two, and I'll first ask the Parks Board members this. Does either A or B not meet the vision of the Mountains to Sound Greenway Trail and the Green Necklace? I guess if anyone feels like it does not, can you add your contribution of why you feel it does not?
You asking the park folks first?
Yeah, so do either of the alternatives not meet the vision of the Green Necklace or the Mountains to Sound Greenway Corridor? Or do both of them meet the vision?
Yeah, John, I had a question for our group regarding the kind of the designation and the requirements for mountain to sound, and it sounded like regardless of either option, that they could still be labeled as such, that you wouldn't need the full 12 foot on one side just to ensure that it still had the mountains to sound designation.
Right. Well, their biggest priority is two things. One, when getting the facility built, that way non-motorized users can have the connections that they're trying to get agencies to build. So they're really coordinating and advocating for agencies to build this and work together and to put their logo on it. Those are the two big things. And for the, anything else before I ask the next question?
So I'm not familiar with Mountain to Sound's expectations here. Is 12 foot their expectation?
No, Jennifer and I talked to them, and other than 12 feet is for a shared use path, the standard design width that most people go with. But really, they feel that a city who builds a portion of the Mountains to Sound Greenway Trail, that they need to build something that fits right for that city and that meets the needs of the city. And they just would like it marked in the wayfinding. That way users can go on it. So they're not sitting there saying, okay, it needs to be 12 feet wide with 2 feet of clear area. They're much more flexible.
I'll just piggyback real quick. The Mountains to Sound Greenway Trail is really a connection through the entire Mountains to Sound National Heritage Area, a shared use route that goes from Puget Sound all the way through the National Heritage Corridor area, and will continue with other regional trails and take you all the way to Spokane to the other side of the state. So the trail is actually going to be a city trail that, as John mentioned, will be marked as a Mountains to Sound route. So as part of that continual signage, but this is a city trail. They have recently, City of Bellevue has constructed new trails right near the Eastgate Center, right next to the freeway. Nice wide shared use path where you can bike and or walk on it. So if you've not experienced one, I would recommend taking a look out there. But those are the functionality features of the Mountains to Sound Trail. Is we want people to be able to, whether you're walking, hiking, biking, to be able to connect through a city from one regional trail at one end and get to the other regional trails at the other end and know you're on the same path. There's multiple shared use routes within the city already, so that have this multifunction. So just wanted to add that for a little bit of clarification.
So it looks like A or B, either one, would comply with Mountain to Sound Greenway expectations.
Correct. Yep. And I got a couple other. Oh, Brad, did you have more? Or if not, I've
Well,
got.
I was only going to ask Jennifer. I haven't actually visited what they've done there at Factoria area. I mean, is that separated in terms of like what's being suggested here in terms of part sidewalk and part paved in terms of the multi-use?
No.
Or is it all, it's all paved?
It's all asphalt.
I guess that would be the only thing, you know, to try and have, if there's some element of consistency throughout the Mountain to Sound corridor, is to, because A is kind of, it's split between concrete and pavement, right? On both sides, right? Whereas B has full pavement on one side.
Although I will say for consistency, there is a portion of the trail that has been built on Newport Way at the Reba Townhomes and the Gateway or the Anthology, I'm not sure, the giant apartment complex. The trail on Newport Way between SR 900 and 54th is made out of concrete. That's been built and in design. And so between 54th and SR 900, it will be concrete.
But that's also where signage really comes into play, directing people that, hey, you're on the right route, even though there's a change in surfacing. But for this segment, I think, given the functionality through town and the new growth, and, this is a different consideration here.
Okay. All right, we're getting near the end of the meeting. I want a few more questions to help me put together the letters that will go between each boards. And so I'll ask the tab question, the same question that I asked the Parks Board, but in particular to what the tab oversees. Do either of the two options, A or B, not meet the guiding principles of the Mobility Master Plan?
This is Tom. I'll chime in. I would say that the option A, oops, I want to do that. Option A is just more, even though it may be signed, it's just a more generic bike lane path on either side, where option B is more visionary as far as actually trying to create something that has a little bit more of a path feel, or for whether it becomes bikes predominantly after 6 months because people realize there are more bikes on that side than pedestrians on the outside. But I think it has a little bit more of a, I guess, lack of a better term, it's more visionary, and it has a more of a feel of a trail on that side than just the bike and peds split on either side. And that's why I would think, to me, B, if you want to have something that has a more feel of a path, the B is going to show that much more than A would.
Following up on Cynthia's comments about the path design, Newport Way is really only 0.7 miles. So I'm not sure if that's particularly a nice place to have an actual visionary path, such to say. I think it's much more useful to have it as a transportation corridor for bikes, and especially for the utility of bike commuting. So I think having that separation there is useful in that case, to minimize any kind of conflicts that might happen at the roundabouts, or with the cars, or with pedestrians.
I would agree with that. I'm from the park board's perspective. I don't know that the design is inconsistent with the green necklace concept, but the green necklace concept, from my recollection, when we went through that design process, was really a lot about like kind of wide areas, either surrounded by nature kind of, or like plaza type areas. So this feels to me like more like a transportation, like we're moving people on bikes through an existing road. If I was to design something with the green necklace in mind, it wouldn't be this, but I don't think that this is inconsistent with that concept, because one of the goals of the green necklace is connectivity. So you're accomplishing that, but I don't think it's necessarily how we would do it in an ideal world. Hopefully that makes sense.
That does.
This is Cynthia. I think I made my point about the shared, but I just want to add a little emphasis to that, and that's that the goals and policies of the MMP safety is, very, 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 very high. And I actually have serious safety concerns with if you have a shared use path, cyclists are going to just choose to be in the road. And so it's a lot of cyclists don't feel safe on shared use paths. And so they'll probably just opt for the road, which I have safety concerns about that. And I also think that even though it's a nice facility, it is part of a transportation corridor, and it is not like a separated path, like Sujata was saying. We have railroad, rails to trails paths and so forth. It's basically right in the middle of a pretty major, way to get around. So I have serious safety concerns with B.
I might also add in one more thing, is that we're just talking about the section of road, but on the visionary part, I would think that this would continue, years down the road, wherever that was going to connect, whether it's going to stay on Newport go out Sunset to Squirrel Herbert Road, or it's going to stay through Newport all the way up through the Sunset interchange, and then tie in with the bike path that then goes up I-90. So this is just a piece of going all the way through the city with what my thought was behind the visionary part, as far as having something that's separated in trail, besides being a transportation.
Okay. Brenda, have you asked your question or comment? And then I've got something for the group afterwards. Oh, you're on mute.
I was going back to safety, and that this is along a school, and having the children and the bikes mixed together is quite concerning. And the children do dart out in front of the bikes, and having, even though it's not designated either or, because you can use both sides, the bikes would learn eventually that it's more comfortable on the one side because it's smoother, and the kids are on the school side anyway because that's where they're going to school. And I really like keeping them separated.
I just, yeah, I know you, John, you had something, but I just want to agree with what Brenda's saying. I think, you have a crowd of kids in front of the school, bicyclists are going to naturally go to the other side anyways, and then you're going to have this, you have a one lane, one way bicycle path on the other side that's all of a sudden going to have bicyclists going both ways, because you are throughout, a couple times a day going to have crowds of people in front of the school.
Okay. At this point, because the goal of this meeting is to be able to draft a joint letter that will say what each board advises, but the action would actually be taken separately at a regular meeting, and I've got to get that letter drafted on Friday. So what we're going to do is do a poll, and we're going to ask each board, starting with the tab, to vote for either concept A or concept B, and then for the Parks Board, do the same thing. And then what I'm going to do is draft up a letter, and then the action at the meeting would be an actual vote. The Parks Board or the tab could vote to accept the letter as written or to make changes if after thinking about it, people change their mind. But I do want to at least get something written to have as an item that could be voted on at the next regular meeting. And so I'm going to have Brienne first poll the tab and then the Parks Board.
And to be clear, I have no way of preventing one group from voting from the other group. So just on your honor system. Oh, sorry, I forgot to type. On your honor system, only the tab members, please vote. I believe we are looking for 9 votes, unless.
Which group is voting?
Tab, Transportation Advisory Board only.
And we only talking A and B, or are you also including C in this vote as well?
I want to only include I only want, if possible, I'd like to only include A and B just because I think when we have C in there, some of the people who voted for C would have voted for B, or maybe they would have voted for A too. But I do feel like C was at a lower value, and I feel that if we have C in there, we might not get how people would really feel when the letter gets drafted.
Brianne, I counted 9 also. From
Okay.
that.
Thank you for confirming. It looks like we're looking for one more vote. Potentially.
You had 8. I think there are 8 from the tab.
I counted 9.
Oh, 9.
It was the person who dropped off wasn't on the tab, is that correct?
No, that was from the Park Board.
Okay.
So Jerry, Joseph, Julian, Sujata, Tom, Micah, Christy, Erica, Cynthia, that's 9.
Anyone having any issues that we can help out with?
It could be me. It says you have already voted on this question. I'm not sure if my tabulation got counted. I chose A.
Do you want me to just go ahead and log his vote from mine?
But we wouldn't know if that
We don't
was
know
the
for sure if that's him.
case or not.
Is it allowing you to vote at all, Julian?
I selected A, but it responds
Oh.
to this. You have already voted on this question, so
So I think maybe that, does that mean that you already logged your vote? What else did other people get that same message? How's that for a question?
I had an issue with that a little bit earlier in a previous vote earlier in the meeting, and I had to refresh my screen, and it allowed me to vote again. I believe you were waiting for like a 16th, and I think it was because it told me that I'd already voted. I refreshed it, I voted again, and then it did it. I don't know if it would work for you.
Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this seems to be fairly important, so don't we just list and just figure out who's missing?
I can't see who has voted, unfortunately.
I'm
So
just saying you could call out and you could just, this person could respond. That might take a minute, but at least we'd be done with it.
absolutely.
Jerry, did you vote? I can't see everyone. I don't know if Jerry's nodding or if she's on mute. Jerry, did you vote? Maybe Jerry had to step away. Joseph, did you vote?
Yeah, I voted.
Julian? We don't
Yes,
know.
I
Sujata?
voted. Yeah.
Sujata voted. I voted.
Tom?
Yep.
Micah?
Yes.
Christy?
Yes.
Erica?
I voted.
And I voted. So I think maybe I didn't hear when I called that out. I think I didn't see Jerry. Did we lose Jerry?
Well, Jerry's showing on the participants.
But her video's not on.
And you're muted right now, Jerry, if you can hear us.
Okay.
So
I think we could go ahead and show the results, just since we're on extra time, and
Yeah, I
then
know.
we'll go to the parks.
We go.
Okay.
Next. Again, I can't control who votes. So Parks Board, your turn. Oh, let me hide.
I'll do B.
That's for you, Brianne.
Okay.
And then I'll do Brad when he
Got it.
checks me. I see yours, Brad. Thank you.
Can somebody record me? It's Danielle for A.
This is Brenda. I'm not sure if I got recorded for B.
Okay, so I voted for Ruben. That's been done. We have 6 votes in.
I
Can
will
we
jump
double?
on and do it for Danielle. Give me a moment.
We only have 6 of us still here, so if you have 6 votes, that should be everybody.
Is that Brad, Ruben?
Show 6.
Jen, were you able to vote for Danielle though?
I have not yet.
Okay.
Do you have all the votes?
I think someone might have, who just dropped off. Micah? What group's Micah in?
Tab.
Micah voted in transportation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Linda dropped off in
Because
Parks,
they
and
were
so we
Linda
only have,
lost.
so we have 6 of us here.
So I think you have 7.
We had 7 when Linda was here, but Linda dropped off.
But then Danielle joined.
Yeah, I've got Danielle here. Brad, Jonathan, Ruben, Brenda, Zach, Linda, Danielle. That was 7.
Oh, Brad, I voted.
Ryan is here.
Oh, Ryan. I'm sorry, Ryan.
Yeah. So then I think as soon as we get Jen's vote in, and
Yep,
by Jen, I
that was
mean
it.
Danielle's,
And which one did you want, Danielle?
and we're good.
I would like A, please. And then I have to drop off. I'm sorry.
No worries, I voted for you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
You did? Did you push submit? Jen, did you?
Hang on, let me try.
Okay, just checking. Sorry.
No, it kicked me out. Hold on. I waited too long. Timed out on me.
Thanks, I can show it. We know which way we're going.
There you
Right?
go. It's on.
Thank you. There you go.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. That was the Parks Board prefers concept B, 57 to 43. And so I'm going to take the information from tonight, from the discussion, draft up a letter. It would be a joint letter. And the first draft will at least say that the tab advises for concept A, and I'll list the reasons, and the Parks Board advises for concept B, and I'll list the reasons. And then when we get to the meeting, we can deliberate on them, or you can deliberate on them and actually vote to endorse the letter or make changes to it. And because we're out of time, I don't have anything else. Is there anything else before we adjourn? And I will say thank you everyone so much for spending 2+ hours on a Wednesday night. Have a good evening and a happy Veterans Day to anyone.
Good night.
Have a good evening, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.